Celeste is, in my opinion, one of the greatest indie games of all time. It expertly balances gameplay and story with a charm that made me fall in love with it when I first played it. Very few games I feel such an attachment to, but Celeste manages to reel me in with its message about overcoming the struggles of mental health while still providing fun, unique, and challenging gameplay. All the characters' personalities feel so natural and realistic. Madeline overcoming the burden and emptiness of natural life, Theo showing love and care for the people around him, Granny, despite originally seeming like a teasing old bat, displays genuine care for Madeline and wants to see her do well knowing what she's capable of. The entire game feels so completely well-rounded, and it makes for one of the best times I've ever had in gaming. But I don't give a shit about that. What if I don't care about the cute dialogue or pretty art and instead beat this shit as fast as I possibly can? Let's go! Now, if I want to beat Celeste as fast as I possibly can, I've got to put in hours and hours of practice memorizing all the rooms, optimizing unique tricks, and okay, I don't have time for that. We're gonna go into this game raw and hard. I have played this game to completion, but I don't have extremely high hopes on my first run, so I have one goal and one goal only, and that's to beat this game in under 2 hours. That's it. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Our journey begins with a brief inner dialogue before we head to our first little bit of platforming. In this prologue, we're introduced to our first 3 basic movement mechanics: walking, jumping, and grabbing. Walking and jumping are self-explanatory, but grabbing is interesting as it allows us to climb up walls, but only for a bit as we're limited by stamina and have to land on solid ground to recharge our stamina before we can climb again. We continue on our path before we come across our first side character, Granny. Normally, she berates us for believing we can actually climb Celeste Mountain, but we skip her dialogue and give her the middle finger because I'm about to climb this damn mountain in under 2 hours. However, just afterwards, we cross a bridge that's comedically falling right behind us before we attempt to jump this gap at the end and fall to our inevitable death. Game over, we didn't reach the top of the mountain, thanks for watching. Oh yeah, we can dash now. After more inner dialogue, we enter the first real level of the game, the Forsaken City, where we get to utilise the 4th movement mechanic and probably the most useful one. At the press of a button, Madeline will dash forward. This can be helpful for both reaching the end of a large gap and dyeing our hair faster than all girls do during their 5th life crisis. Once you dash, Madeline's raspberry red hair turns to blue raspberry blue hair, signifying that we can't dash again until we touch solid ground. Dashing is especially useful in speedrunning as it allows us to do tricks to help us move faster, such as super dashes or reverse hyper dashes, or mega ultra super hyper supreme extra reverse dash jump like plus. But for now, I'm just gonna use super dashes, which look like this. Sick. After 3 minutes, way too many unnecessary deaths, and a cutscene skip, we finish Chapter 1 in 3 minutes, meaning we're still on track to beat this game in under 2 hours. Chapter 2 starts us off exactly where we ended Chapter 1, except things are odd. The sky's raining stars, my campfire is green, and I haven't gotten any messages back from my ex. Okay, that part's normal, but everything else is strange. We head forward and come across this weird space block thing. I'll worry about that later. For now, we head into this hole and fall all the way to the bottom before I smash my head into this rock and head to the end of the room. There, I find a mirror. But as I go to look at it so I can point out all my insecurities, I see a darker, more twisted version of myself. This is Madeline. Madeline, as opposed to Madeline, is a more emo and edgy and this isn't a phase mom version of Madeline. Madeline is a visual representation of the mental health struggles that Madeline experiences in her normal life and acts as the antagonist on a climb to the top of Mount Celeste. Before we can investigate too much, Madeline crashes out of the mirror and makes a mess. After she does this, we notice the weird space block thingy above us turn dark and start moving. This is a dream block. If we dash into this block, we travel in a straight line to the other end of the block, even if the other end is solid concrete. Utilizing the dream blocks, we exit the hole we fell into, climb up this building, and run into Madeline. Now usually we speak to her and she also berates us for believing we can climb Celeste Mountain. Seriously, what is up with these people? But I yet again skip the cutscene. Madeline doesn't take too kindly to this and starts to chase us. In this section, Madeline will copy our movements exactly, and if we come into contact with her, we die. But I don't want to die, so I begin to haul ass to any exit I see. Madeline is an asshole, so after a while, she decides to perform fucking mitosis and now there's several Madelines. Madeline, however, couldn't care less, and she successfully manages to run away. We come across a ringing phone at an info booth, and after answering we find out we're in a dream. Madeline then suddenly appears, laughs at us, and then shapeshifts into God's mistake before devouring us. However, like I said, we're dreaming. So we wake up and head back to that info booth that dream killed us so we can call our mother for emotional support. Chapter 2 finished in 5 minutes. We're very on track to succeed our mission. Chapter 3 begins at a broken bridge, and we're expected to not judge the maintenance quality of this location. Regardless, we head forth. On the very next screen, we notice these weird little black balls of growth that we can't touch. Not like I'd want to anyways. Some are stationary obstacles, but others move around a bunch, which means yay, yippee, psycho-based platforming, woo! Whatever. We continue forwards and come across a locked door. We grab the conveniently placed key nearby, open the door, and enter what seems to be the main lobby of a hotel. Inside we find a logbook that I don't give a shit about, and a bell. We ring the bell, and after some spooky magic that we skip, we meet Mr. Ishiro. Mr. Ishiro owns the Celestial Hotel, the building we're in, and he sucks at running it, only having 2 visitors in the past however long. After we talk to Ishiro, he begins to guide us to our master suite, but forgets to mention that we have to travel through several rooms of death. Traversing these rooms doesn't take too long, and once we meet up with Ishiro, we enter... What the fuck is this? That's right, Ishiro is so bad at maintaining his hotel that he leaves floating laundry, books, and crates just everywhere. When we find Ishiro, he cowers on the ground because of the mess he's too pussy to clean up, and we have to solve his problem because we're strong and independent. To do this, we enter 3 different sections of the hotel where one by one, we clean up the crates, the laundry, and then the books. Now everything looks spotless. No thanks to Ishiro, that lazy ass bitch. Finally, we grab this key and go up to this locked door so we can finally enter our master suite. We still aren't there yet. We still have a long way to go. After another 4 minutes of travelling through rooms that would make OSHA shit their pants, we can finally enter our master suite. Oh look, that's the mirror we saw Madeline in. Holy shit, it's Madeline! That's right, Madeline isn't just a dream. She's very real and she belittles Ishiro for horribly maintaining this hotel. I mean, she's not wrong. She crashes through the roof, we chase her up there, and Ishiro's fragile ego finally breaks. He turns into yet another abomination and begins to chase us across the roof of the hotel. I was just trying to help, man, what the fuck? After he chases us for a solid 5.5 minutes, he realizes that maybe murdering someone isn't the greatest way to run a hotel, and he leaves us alone, ending chapter 3. All in all, it took us about 20 minutes to complete chapter 3. Not the greatest time, but there's definitely still hope if I want to complete this game in under 2 hours. Chapter 4 kicks us off a bit further up the mountain, as we're introduced to our next mechanic, clouds. Basically, clouds give us uppies. If we jump on them, they catch our weight and spring us to the moon, so we can get a little bit of extra height. Using clouds, we expertly navigate our way to the next screen, as we're immediately introduced to the next mechanic of chapter 4, bubbles. If we jump in these bubbles and hold a direction, we'll travel a short distance in that direction before the bubble drops us off and makes us fend for ourselves. We quickly blitz through the screen as we come across Granny once again, and once again, she laughs at us for believing we can still make it up this mountain. Whatever, Granny, you're 78 and you get no bitches, so we'll be moving right along. After talking to Granny, we're introduced to yet another new mechanic of chapter 4, wind. Yeah, this chapter has a lot of new mechanics, I don't know what to tell you. Wind is easy to understand. Whatever direction the wind blows, moving in that direction becomes easier and moving against it becomes harder. I do not like wind, but luckily I've played this game before, so this wind section is no big deal. After ramming our skulls into these blocks, we're introduced to another new mechanic, red clouds. These are basically the same as normal clouds, except when you jump on them, they disappear. No biggie. Travelling forward, we cruise through these wind sections without any difficulty whatsoever as we meet another new mechanic, guided platforms. Upon interacting with them, they'll begin to move in the direction the arrow was pointing. If they crash into a wall, they'll collapse and respawn at the beginning a few seconds later. Some of these platforms have these tabs on them that you can use to guide them side to side to help complete a room. Very fun. Using these blocks, we make it through the next few rooms, and after a quick McDonald's break, we begin to blitz through the rest of Chapter 4. As we tough through winds, bubbles, and a mild skill issue, we are finally introduced to the last new mechanic of Chapter 4, snowballs. During this final section, snowballs will begin to be volleyed at us. If we get hit by them, we die. However, we can jump on them to regain our dash, which is neat. After an onslaught of snowballs, strong winds, and my inability to play the game, we arrive at a lift to carry us up the mountain. However, we are interrupted by Theo, who calls for us from above, trips, and eats shit. Oh yeah, this is Theo. Theo is supposed to be our travel buddy for this climb, the easygoing, social media obsessed thrill seeker who just so happens to be on the same climb we are. However, just for some sick photos to upload to his Insta pics. Yeah, sure. Normally we'd watch a cutscene where Madeline crashes our lift, Madeline has a panic attack, and Theo tells us to breathe Lamau. However, there's no time for serious mental health issues because we've got to go past. Chapter 4 comes to a much needed end as we clock in a time of just under 10 minutes with an hour and 20 minutes to spare for the rest of our speedrun. At this point, I'm getting kinda worried. Celeste only has 7 chapters in its main story, and we've already completed 4 of them, but the final 3 chapters are by far the hardest of them all, with chapter 7 being filled with the hardest platforming the main story has to offer. So although we've completed over half the game in under half the time we've given ourselves, that feeling of dread that I have that I won't complete this challenge is starting to linger. However, no rest for the weary, I'm going to continue forth and at least try to complete this challenge. Chapter 5 starts us off at the mouth of what appears to be an abandoned temple. Theo quickly dives in without regard for his own safety because anything for the Reddit karma, and we follow suit trying to make sure he doesn't kill himself. Inside, we are quickly introduced to the first of Chapter 5's new mechanics, dash blocks. When you dash, these blocks travel at Mach fuck to the other end of the white rectangle before slowly returning to its original position. If Madeline dashes while on these blocks and jumps at the right time, she can be launched at insane speeds, which is sick for speedrunning. But I don't know how to do that yet, so I use them as intended. Using these blocks, we leave this room and come across this red bubble. This bubble works exactly the same as the bubble in Chapter 4, but instead of travelling a short distance before dropping us, it'll travel in a straight line until it hits a wall or we dash out of it. Now, Chapter 5 is unique, because instead of a linear, understandable path, this chapter is very open and allows for a lot of exploration, which, if you forget what path you need to take, can eat up a good bit of time. I forgot what path I needed to take. Once I figure out the correct way, I continue to travel through this maze, take these bowls, and find this creepy, mysterious mirror. Oh hey, look, that's like the other 2 mirrors that we saw battle in, and we're stuck inside the mirror. You know, I've got to start avoiding mirrors. We wake up to a room full of weird red vines and tentacles, and then we see Madeline. Madeline decides it'd be funny to laugh at us for having mental health issues. Like, what the fuck? Well, we have no other choice but to continue forth. But when we enter this room, we are introduced to God's mistake, the worst thing in this game. Oh my god, I hate it! A Seeker. We are introduced to Seekers. This slimy, gross, horrible eyeball creature will charge and attack Madeline upon seeing her. For most rooms, it's just an additional obstacle to avoid, but it's not that big of a deal if you know where to go. We get past these rooms, get a few keys, use this bubble, get past some more rooms with more Seekers, until finally we meet Theo? In a crystal? Yeah, Theo's trapped in a crystal, and it turns out this entire environment is kinda his fault, because his mind is also a bit messed up. Regardless, we pick up Theo Crystal and make our way to the end of the chapter, navigating through my least favourite section in the game, like all the Seekers and tight platforming and having to carry Theo around. It's just awful. Finally, we enter this room spewing sound waves at us, and at the end, we throw Theo at this giant ass eyeball, escaping the Shadow Realm and Chapter 5 in just under 20 minutes. We begin Chapter 6 right where we left off Chapter 5, leaving the temple. We're carrying Theo around on our back as we lay him down and rest for the night. Now, this cutscene has some of my favourite dialogue in the entire game, along with the best artwork, but I'm gonna skip this for now. One, because I want to stay in the group of the speedrun, but also so you can check it out for yourself if you haven't played Celeste. I genuinely can't recommend this game enough, it is peak. But for right now, we skip this dialogue and wake up to a beautiful night sky with a golden feather to our right. The golden feather allows us to fly omnidirectionally at a set speed for a short time, at which we'll be kicked out of the feather powers and go back to normal Madeline. We use these powers to fly high up into the sky as we confront Madeline. Again, I'll skip going over this cutscene because it's really something that's best experienced on your own, but long story short, we yell at Madeline for holding us back, she gets angry, and we get sent to the bottom of the mountain. All that climbing in the previous chapters, overcoming these obstacles, and we're all the way at the bottom. Now, this would suck, but this is a speedrun, so we don't have time to be mentally ill. We've got to go fast. We awake in a pond and we swim underneath the water to find this adorable guy. This is Kevin. If we dash into his sides, he'll go flying in that direction, giving us some long distance coverage. We use him and the golden feathers to make our way through all these rooms. Soon enough, we meet these weird, staticky walls. If we jump on these, they'll fling us in the opposite direction and we regain a dash. Using our acquired skill, along with the new mechanics, we come across this room with Granny. But this time, she doesn't mock us. Instead, she encourages us and tells us that we can do it. She also tells us that we should speak to Madeline and that, along with us, she might also be just as scared. So, we go to confront Madeline. In this next room, we find these weird black tentacle-y things, which means we're close to Madeline. A few rooms later, and there she is, sitting on the ground. We try to comfort her, and be honest that we don't need to get rid of her, but we need her. In such an honourable act of generosity and kindness, she allows us to approach her and give her a hug. Oh my god, what the hell is that? This is the Madeline boss fight, one of my biggest worries of Chapter 6. All we need to do is make contact with Madeline, but she's not gonna make it easy for us. We need to conquer difficult platforming that will put the other chapters to shame. And if that wasn't hard enough, Madeline is constantly shooting death orbs and lasers at us to make our life a living hell. I might have struggled with the weird gooballs in Chapter 3 or the horrible little tentacle guys in Chapter 5, but this is horrible. In this section alone, I died 44 times, which might not sound like a lot, but I am someone who has completely 100%ed Celeste without assist mode, except for Golden Strawberries, but that's for another video. Meaning I got the experience. This section was my 13th reason why, but after 44 deaths of pure suffering, I did it. All I have to do now is race to Madeline and give her the warmest embrace. After finally coming to terms with Madeline and our own flaws, we grow stronger. Madeline's raspberry red hair now turns to pink raspberry pink hair. With this new hair dye, we are able to dash twice before touching the ground, going from pink to red and then to blue when we need to touch the ground and re-energize. We make our way up with the help of Madeline and we end Chapter 6 in 19 minutes and 51 seconds. Leaving us with just under 40 minutes to reach the summit of Mount Celeste. All this work to make it to this point has led us so close to the finish line, but can we really make it to the top in only 40 minutes? Well, let's do this and see. Chapter 7, aka The Summit, is the final chapter in the main storyline of Celeste, and it makes us know it. The entire chapter is full of remixed sections from past chapters, bringing back all the mechanics that we loved and despised at times. But it doesn't matter how much we like them, we just need to get to the top. First, we have an appetizer. Just some basic platforming to get us warmed up with our new double dash ability. But even this warm-up is incredibly difficult. With tight jumps and precise landings, this chapter is not going to be easy. After some admittedly pretty dumb deaths, we reach the end of the first section, 36 minutes left. Now is our first remix section, being a remix of chapter 1. These contain our beloved traffic blocks that shoot forward when we stand on or grab them. Just like chapter 1, this section gives us a little bit of difficulty. We blitz through it quicker than the last section. 34 minutes left. Now is the chapter 2 remix, with dream blocks. This is one of my favourite mechanics in the game, so they don't give me too much trouble. Kinda. But regardless, the section doesn't take too long, 32 minutes left. Now, it might seem that we're blitzing through these sections pretty quickly, and should be done with chapter 7 in no time, but this is where the difficulty really begins to spike. The chapter 3 remix reintroduces us to our favourite mechanic, cycles. But we can't slow down now. The end is within reach, so if we can get through this quickly, we've still got a chance. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. Took us a while, but this section is finally brought to an end. 26 minutes left. The chapter 4 remix brings back just everything. Bubbles, clouds, moving platforms, wind, snowballs, deep regret for even trying to speedrun this game. It's got it all. The chapter 4 remix reminds me why chapter 4 is one of my least favourite chapters of the game, but we slug through it. 22 minutes left. The chapter 5 remix is next, and oh my god, everything is covered in death. This remix specializes in extreme precision as well as gaining momentum from these dash blocks. Thankfully, this remix doesn't contain a single seeker, those stains on the planet that contribute nothing to society! While this remix is full of precision, it isn't too difficult, as most of the difficulty is just figuring out what you need to do. So if you've played this game before, it's not all that bad! So we reach the end in a timely manner. 18 minutes left. Now, since there's no chapter 6 remix, we reach the final section of the game, the true summit. Now, even though we have a full 18 minutes to reach the top, this section is full of the most difficult platforming in the entire game. Every jump needs to be perfect unless you want to die over and over and over again. As a little motivation, the game places checkpoints with numbers starting at 30 counting down to 1, when we will finally reach the summit of Mount Celeste. We begin at 30. This entire speedrun has been such a difficult task, especially with the goal of completing it in under 2 hours. We are so close to the end, but that timer threatens our completion. Every checkpoint is a reminder of how close we are to winning, but also how close we are to failing this challenge. 29, 26, 22, 19, 15... The numbers fly by, but so does the timer. However, we won't give up. We've made it so far. 14, 12, 9, 6, 4. We can't stop now. The hours of work we've put into this will not go in vain. This challenge has taken a mental and physical toll on me, but when the finish line is in view, you can't help but push through the pain until you collapse. 3. At this point, I'm not even looking at the timer. All of my focus is dedicated to reaching the end. 2. So incredibly close. Was this all for nothing, or did I actually accomplish this monstrous task? 1. Make the final push towards the top of the mountain. A few more jumps, and I'll be done. But will I have succeeded in my goal? Was this all for nothing? As I finally reach the top of the mountain, I see that I've completed the game in 1 hour and 49 minutes. Just over 10 minutes to spare. I can't believe I've done it. I actually done it. There were so many times where I thought I was going to fail, but I actually did it. Now, I can watch the credits and feel at peace, knowing that I've overcome such a difficult task. I was sitting by myself a couple days later, thinking about this run. An hour and 49 minutes. I completed the challenge, but an hour and 49 minutes? I've played this game to near completion. I've already overcome some of the most difficult platforming this game has to offer. I'm better than an hour and 49 minutes, right? It was decided. I wasn't going to settle for a sub 2 hour speedrun. I wasn't even going to settle for a sub 1 hour 50 run. But I didn't want to go for a sub 140. Not even a sub 130. No. I was going for my true summit. I was going to complete this game in under 1 hour. Now, remember at the beginning of the video when I said some dumb stuff like, I don't have time for that. We're gonna go into this game raw and hard. Yeah, that's not gonna work this time. If I want to get a sub 1 hour time, I'm going to need to work for it. I'm going to need to practice, I'm going to need to memorize rooms, and above all else, I'm going to need to optimize unique tricks. 90% of the screens in Celeste have fairly obvious and straightforward intended paths, but those paths are pretty slow, so we want to find ways to shortcut these times. That may save only a couple of seconds, but over the course of an hour of speedrunning, that'll add up. Chapter 1 has a lot of small optimizations, and since we're going to be there quite a lot, we should get used to them. This room in specific is an example of the shortcuts I was talking about. If we tackle this room the normal way, it will take us about 7-8 seconds, but if we take this super fancy shortcut, it only takes about 3 seconds. We can only do that because of hyperdashes. Like super dashes, hyperdashes allow us to keep a lot of speed from a dash, but unlike super dashes, we can keep our dash to use it for something else. This can allow us to do things like chain hyperdashes, or like you just saw, skip entire rooms. This, among other tech, will allow us to save a considerable amount of time over the course of the speedrun, to the point where even if we die the same amount of times, we could save minutes. Now, great, we can do our funny little hyperdashes, but it means nothing if we don't practice, so practice I did. I played Celeste for hours going through rooms, finding the best paths to take, all just for one run to get under an hour. No chapter better demonstrates this than Chapter 3. This chapter is basically hell for speedrunners, not only because it's difficult, but because it's so long. The jump in difficulty from Chapter 2 to Chapter 3 is sadistic on the developer's end, but practice can help mitigate the pain. The first issue of Chapter 3 is the massive mess Shiro left. This section's difficulty depends greatly on how you play it, as for each room you clear, other rooms can become more or less difficult after they get cleaned up. That's why speedrunners have developed pathing to balance speed and difficulty. If we head to the bottom path first, and then the top, and then finally the top right, this will do two things. First, it will make our time going through them as easy as possible, but most importantly, whenever we reach this button thing and then leave the path, it will drop us off right next to Shiro, so we don't have to travel too far to reach him, talk to him, and then go to the next path. So that section is easy enough with a bit of optimized pathing, but where Chapter 3 really tests my patience is the final beat of the chapter, running from Shiro. Now, I glazed over this section on my first run through, but oh my god, this is the worst part of the game, just in general. There's so many cycles you need to keep track of, tight gaps to jump through, and while you do everything, Shiro attacks you like every 5 seconds, so you have to plan around him as well. This part is so bad that if I ever made it past this point in an attempt, I'd know to lock in because it was getting serious. So, with tricks learned and rooms memorized, all we need to do is grind and grind until we get that sub-hour time. So, here we go. almost a week of doing nothing but playing Celeste has brought my time down to 1 hour, 4 minutes and 7 seconds. So incredibly close to my goal. I had played a lot of Celeste, but my biggest issue was inconsistency. I went deathless in both chapter 1 and 2 and had even smashed my previous best time on the final chapter. But I let myself down in other chapters, losing times or rookie mistakes and costing myself the run. I may have gotten a new best time, by a pretty considerable margin as well, but I was still disappointed. I really wanted to believe that I could do it, but if I can't nail the tricks I've nailed so many times before when the pressure is on, would I really have a chance? After sitting for a moment, I closed the game and went to bed with an air of disappointment and doubt. I started up the next day with so-so expectations. I just wanted to get a run or two in before I really start to practice those rooms that I messed up yesterday. Nothing serious, just a warm-up. So, I created a new save file and began my first run of the day. "41 minutes and 56 seconds. My first run of the day, and I have just a bit more than 18 minutes to achieve my goal. What was meant to be a warm-up has turned into a serious dash to the finish line. Good won't be good enough. I need to be great, because 18 minutes is less than my personal best time on the final chapter by over a minute, so I will need to play out of my mind in order to get the time under an hour. The chapter starts at 0 meters and I will bolt forwards. 0 meters is by far the easiest section of the final chapter, so as long as I don't die, I'll get out of here quickly. And thankfully, with 0 deaths, I finished the section in just over a minute. 500 meters has a few difficult rooms, but is still relatively easy, so I shouldn't have any dumb deaths here. Okay, a few dumb deaths is fine, but not ideal. However, I'm out in about a minute and a half. 1000 meters is, again, still pretty easy, so I'm not too stressed. I get through quickly with a bit over 15 minutes left to complete the challenge. 1500 meters, however, is where things get tough. I've never made it through 1500 meters without a few bad deaths, so going in, I'm stressed. I blitzed through the entire section with a very minor and quick death. The end trips me up a bit, but I'm out in no time. Going to 2000 meters is when it starts to settle in that I might be able to do this. If I can get through the final half of the chapter at about the same pace as my previous PB, I should be able to achieve a sub-hour. 2000 meters, as always, isn't too difficult, just a bit finicky, because wind in this game is awful. But nevertheless, I get through it with just over 9 minutes to complete 2500 meters and 3000 meters. Entering 2500 meters, I use a new shortcut I discovered to skip through some gameplay at the beginning before trudging through some genuinely really difficult platforming. I did not practice this section as much as I should have, so there are some really unnecessary deaths. However, all I need to do is focus, and the rest of the section isn't too difficult. Entering 3000 meters, I have 6.5 minutes to reach the peak of Mount Celeste and get that sub-hour goal that has been on my mind for a week. Many hours of gameplay have led me to this moment, and I'm not about to let it go to waste. So, after a whole week, the practice, willpower, and determination. I encourage you to watch and enjoy as I make my way to the finish line. Oh my fucking god. Oh. And after a week of just playing Celeste, I had finally gotten my goal of finishing the game in under 1 hour. Now, trust me when I say that this wasn't easy. It took hours of focus and shredding my hands on the joysticks, but I had so much fun doing this. Celeste is genuinely one of the greatest games I've ever played. And even after playing these levels over and over again, every single time I did, I had so much fun. The level design is genuinely peak, and in tandem with the movement, it just doesn't get any better. Even the story and dialogue, which I've barely even talked about, is incredible. It feels like every aspect of this game was made with so much love and care. So please, if you've never played Celeste before, give it a try. It is without a shadow of a doubt worth the investment. But, even if you don't play the game, I at least thank you for watching to the end. Enjoy the rest of your day.